What's up, LRs? Quick market update. We are at the futures open right now. It's Sunday afternoon, and just want to touch base on two names, DJT and GameStop. And I want to talk quickly about just what the market's doing, and then we'll get into those two stocks. So if we run over to the flexible grid, we can see that we had overall upswing. And we can see this across all primary sectors within the S&P 500. We can see just about everything saw some level of appreciation last week. However, some things really stand out. So XLI, so industrials, financials, energy, communications, definitely hovering near all-time highs. Consumer staples still pretty low, still up a little bit, but low, but yet discretionary all-time highs. That's an interesting divergence between those to me. And then we can see technology finally hit 3-month highs. It's been struggling for some time now. And if we pop over to something like QQQ really fast, we can see that it has finally retaken this summer high from about 6 months ago. So the market right now, euphoria, that's what I see. There's going to be a lot of money continuing to move into the market. Tomorrow's a little bit different just because it's a bank holiday, so trading desks are closed, although trading's open. Normally a little bit lighter volume, but we can see that futures on the open tonight, they're definitely positive. We have E-minis up 0.15%. The Russell, which is still probably going to be a key leader here for a little bit, because small caps, they have a lot of ground to cover. If we look at the performance for small caps on the year, they're now up 19.42%, whereas the S&P 500 is up 26.69%. So for the longest part of the year, small caps were light years behind. And now it looks like they're finally catching up just a little bit. Now, let's take a peek at DJT. A couple people asked about this, what this might look like now that the election is kind of known. And this in here has been, at least in my opinion, completely expected, meaning this decline. Now, what has been slightly interesting is we can see the day that the next trading day after we understood that he had won, the 6th of November, big, giant gap up, and fully as expected, a absolute crash towards the bottom. And again, a lot of people are using this as an election proxy. Well, now the election output is known, and I think that we're going to be in an interesting spot because now we have to see what people actually value DJT at. And I mean, I've already gotten out of it. I've traded it in 2 different tranches. I traded it, that box that I just had highlighted. I ran that up through to here, and then I had it again from here to here. And I exited early on the day of the election just because for me, it was almost like an earnings play. And the fact that the now unknown is now known, that was my play, and it happened to work out. It could have gone the other way parabolically. I still would have gotten out just because that was what I was trying to gain exposure to. Now, if we take a look at the options chain, look at the put OI. This is being played to the downside now, massively. The overwhelming majority of put open interest is on the put side. We have 875,000 puts against 515,000 calls. This is people playing the downside, rightfully so. I don't blame them. The reason why I don't blame them is just because this isn't to say DJT can't go up, but this whole run was based on something that we now know that still hasn't actually changed the value of the organization yet. Because especially while Trump is in office, obviously his brand becomes slightly more worth, but the problem is that this isn't just based on his personal brand's worth. It has to do other things, and that's one of the big issues that it's going to run into. So if we look at volatility, absolutely crazy high volatility, 290% down to 260, 227, all the way down. We can see a little bit of a kink in the volatility smile. It's kind of like a fucked up smile, kind of like mine. But the volatility, the term structure here, we can see it goes from 210 to 197 up to 204. So high, low, high. That's just typically not what you would see. There's a lot, you see this a lot though in stuff like this. The other thing is take a look at the call transactions from Friday. This is interesting to me. Take a look at how many of these calls were at the offer or above, 38%. So I have to be honest, that's very striking to me. I would not expect that many calls to be open. So this absolutely indicates that some people are expecting a follow through. So we'll have to give it another couple days. For me, I have ideas on what might happen, but I always remain based off of what's actually happening. And we need another couple days to see how that goes. All right, now GameStop. We talked about this a lot on Saturday during the GME live streams. That's every Saturday at 5 p.m. Pacific time. But this I just want to touch on because how cool is this? We started to see a pretty significant expansion in volume here, and it was carried through to here. And again, going back, we've looked through now for 3 months all of Roaring Kitty's old trades. We've been analyzing the price performance of GameStop extensively. And not just from like a cursory overview, I'm also logging so that I can look at it from a broader quantitative perspective. And one of the main things that I can definitively say is before it has these really big parabolic moves, we see volume start to expand every single time. That does not mean every single time volume expands, GameStop's going to move. It doesn't mean that, but it does mean every time I've seen GameStop move, it has had volume. And that's nothing earth shattering. That's not specific to GameStop, but that is really common, especially in mover stocks like this that kind of stay dormant. If you go to the 24th, 2.6 million volume, then it runs to 5.9, essentially doubling. And then it goes to 13.64. So it skyrockets. This is a really simple trade, in my opinion. This is a breakout style position that then over the last week got carried through way more than I think a lot of people expected. So we saw a pretty reasonable run here from 20 and a half up until about 25. So now the question is, does it stay up here and maintain its momentum, or does it start to capitulate? Which to me, it doesn't look like capitulation. The reason why I say that is because I do think 25 is a massive area of resistance. And we talked about this again on the live stream. And the reason for that simply is if we go back far enough, you can kind of see a really clear volume node here in the 25-26 handle. And that indicates, and same thing right here, that indicates that there's a lot of people that bought in really freaking high above this. And they're now excited to have an opportunity to get out. So a lot of those people are taking their exit. And you can also see that represented if we look at a daily. There's no surprise to me that if you take a look at where the sale volume really starts to step in, take a look. It's in here. It's when it's above 25. Now, some people think that that's the market makers pushing the stock down. Absolutely can be part of the equation, not weighing in on that. But what I do know objectively is that it is a ton of people that are getting their first look since essentially October, September timeframe to get out at break even. And my guess is a lot of these people started getting in at astronomically high prices like 53 because there are volume nodes way up here. They're small, but they're there. So that means that people very likely averaged into this, committing more capital to the trade, wanting to get out because it's too big of a trade, and they're taking their exit. Now, the thing that looks encouraging to me is that it didn't go up to just 25 and get slammed all the way down. It didn't just tick above 25. It ran a little bit above 25. Enough sellers started stepping in to press it down, but just shy of 25. It's not like 25.99, but it closed at what, 24.88? So very close. So this tells me that the sellers are eager to get out at 25, but there's not in mass, which again makes complete sense. Because if we zoom back out again, we can see that there are volume nodes here, but this volume node is now becoming the absolute bulk. Anything from 23 down to 20. So there's a group of people looking to get out, a large group of people, but there's a larger group of people down here. So really interesting overall price behavior. I'm really eager to see how it moves this week. My positions in here, always transparent about that. I still have shares. I have short calls that are now underwater that I'm going to have to manage. That's no problem. And then I traded this move here. So I bought more options a little near dated than the other option trades that I already have on that are out in April. These are just out in like January, and these are still on. So I'll stay into these essentially, and I'm just sliding the stop up. So that's all there is to it. Now, if we take a look at the options chain really quick, let's take a look at total OI. We have 567,000 calls against 218,000 puts. So still massive call skew. And the one thing that stuck out to me during the live stream was this. The near-term options chain is all sorts of messed up. Now, notice how much that already aligned. If you watch the video from Saturday compared to here, this is already a massive normalization. It makes way more sense here. So now it's looking like in 20 Ds, the 23s are at like 104.6% vol against the 15 Novs, which are like 98. So that closed almost 10 points. This was really interesting because that was so far out of whack, but it looks like it's starting to normalize. Same thing with some of those kinks that we saw in 15 Nov. So that's good. Otherwise, it's just really, really anomalous. It was actually something I was looking at trading. The other thing I'll note here quickly is that there are massive call IV skew on both of these. This went away for a while. Now it's coming back. So this is people starting to price more richly to the upside, expecting potential upside movement. Very cool to see. As always, if there's anything you want me to take a look at, throw it in the comments or shoot me an email, eric@outliertrading.io. Be an outlier. I'll see y'all later.